Hello, I'm Shanir Ebe, and I'm joined today by Lamont Black, an associate professor of finance in the Driehaus College of Business at DePaul, where he also serves as the academic director of the Center for Financial Services. Today, Professor Black is going to help us understand a bit about cryptocurrency, an emerging form of digital currency that roughly 16% of Americans say they've owned, traded, or used in some way. Hello, Professor Black. Thanks for being with me today.
Great to be here, Shanira.
Okay. First question is, what is cryptocurrency and how does it work? Explain it like we're in third grade.
All right. Well, I think most people have probably heard of cryptocurrency now. So it's a form of digital currency. And we're all familiar with electronic payments. You know, we pay for things using our phones nowadays. But most of those payments are going through credit cards, debit cards, and ultimately the banking system. The real innovation of cryptocurrency is it is a form of electronic cash. So if you think about trying to spend a $20 bill in person, it's something you can just hand across the counter. But once we start paying for things online, we have to use these accounts and banking system transactions. And so cryptocurrency is a way to put cash on the internet where you can transfer it from one person to another. Just like you would a $20 bill in person, you can transfer Bitcoin from one digital wallet to another digital wallet. And it hasn't really taken off yet as a means of payment, but there are more and more forms of cryptocurrency coming around. One of the newest innovations are things called stable coins, which are a cryptocurrency that's pegged to something like the dollar. So one USDC, a form of stable coin, equals $1. And so I think we're seeing more and more innovation in this space that will likely turn it into a form of payments sometime in the next few years.
So how does the average person get involved with crypto? For what reasons do they tend to have interest?
Yeah, so right now, most people are viewing crypto as an investment. So, the statistic that you gave of people who own or trade crypto, most of those people are now buying crypto through some form of exchange. So, I often recommend Coinbase as a US-based exchange where people can buy Bitcoin, other types of cryptocurrency. It's a publicly listed company. It's highly regulated here in the US, and so it's very safe and secure. But there's a lot of other ways to buy crypto. Many of my students are now buying crypto on Robinhood. You can buy crypto on Venmo. And so, as I said, many people aren't using it as a way to buy goods or services. You know, not many people are buying pizza and coffee with crypto, but many young people are starting to view it as an investment, just like stocks and bonds. It's part of their portfolio. And I think it's easy to kind of be skeptical of, is this just another get rich quick type of scheme? And I tell my students, you shouldn't invest any money that you're not willing to lose. But it is an interesting alternative, and it can generate very nice returns. And there's a lot of volatility, so there's a lot of risk in this market, but it is an emerging asset class that has a lot of potential.
What does the future look like regarding crypto, and how do you imagine cryptocurrency will be utilized in 5 years and then in 10 years?
So I sometimes tell people that if you want to think about all the aspects of crypto, I recently developed this acronym of thinking about a MAP, M-A-P. So these are kind of three categories that you can use to think about crypto. So the M in MAP is money. So the original idea of cryptocurrency and Bitcoin was a form of money that people could use to buy and sell goods and services on the internet. It's a digitally native currency. And as I said, that hasn't quite taken off in its use case, but I do think with stable coins and other types of crypto that are emerging, we're going to see more and more integration into like point of sale systems at a retail service, or just like people use PayPal to buy something on the internet. I think it's only just around the corner where we're going to see more use of crypto to buy things through e-commerce. So I think crypto as a form of money is right around the corner. Then the A in MAP is asset. So as I said, many people are now buying cryptocurrency as an investment, holding it as an asset in their portfolio. And that's not just retail investing. We're seeing a big increase in institutional investing as cryptocurrency is becoming more mainstream. It's also becoming more regulated. Investment banks, hedge funds, other types of money managers are now exploring cryptocurrency for their clients. Many of the large banks are now holding cryptocurrency on behalf of their clients. And so cryptocurrency as an asset class is emerging kind of as a third leg to the stocks, bonds, and crypto. And then lastly, the one that I haven't really mentioned yet is the P in MAP, which I think of as platform. So cryptocurrency is built on a technology called blockchain that many people have now heard of. It's difficult to understand. People might have heard of mining as it relates to Bitcoin. So it's basically a network that's supporting a transaction-based system or a ledger. So with Bitcoin, all those transactions where you're transferring Bitcoin from one wallet to another wallet, those transactions are verified on a blockchain ledger using this network of users. So blockchain has many applications, and cryptocurrency in general uses blockchain not just as a form of supporting money, but supporting other things like smart contracts. So I encourage people, once they start to get their heads around Bitcoin a little bit, they should really start to focus on the second largest crypto, which is called Ether, which is the coin for the Ethereum network. And what's interesting about Ethereum is it is a platform in which you can build applications. And so just like we use apps on our phone, with blockchain, you can build these things called decentralized applications, or dApps, which are applications not owned by any corporation. There's no data monitored through like social media. It's all built on a private, accessible public blockchain. So the reason this is so important is the nature of the internet is changing. All of these concerns about data collection, data monetization, how we're being tracked and monitored when we use the web. Cryptocurrency and blockchain provides an avenue in which we can create an internet that people can access much more independently and privately. And so cryptocurrency is a platform that people are starting to build on. And so the applications go way beyond money and assets, which is where we are today. And so I think, again, a lot of potential going forward.
So another area of research in your career has been commercial real estate securitization. Describe for us what that is and why it interests you.
Yeah, so real estate is an interesting asset class. You know, Chicago, being a large urban area, is very well known for the high rises downtown. And those buildings can't be financed by a bank because they're just too large and the capital requirements are too great. And so most of those buildings are funded in the capital markets. And so commercial real estate is often funded with securitization. So people might have heard in 2008 and 2009 with mortgages being securitized, residential mortgages, you know, there were some problems that came up with that. The subprime mortgage crisis was closely related to securitization. But with commercial real estate, some of my research, what we found is that there are different types of participants. You have banks that are involved, and then you have capital market investors. And our research looks at kind of the trade-offs when you are funding a new building or a new group of buildings in the commercial real estate market. Do you want bank financing? Do you want capital market financing? And what we find is a lot of it comes down to flexibility. Capital markets tend to be cheaper because you're accessing a broader range of investors, but banks tend to be better at monitoring and renegotiating if there's any issues that come up or financial distress. And so we look at which types of buildings are funded in which type of markets, and it just kind of highlights the range of options that are out there, whether you're going through the banking system or through capital markets.
How have you seen that segment of the industry react to the change in demand for commercial real estate over the past 2 years during the pandemic?
Yeah, the pandemic has shifted the real estate market dramatically, and especially commercial real estate. You know, as we've gone to more of a remote working environment, people are not going downtown. Many companies had sort of temporary changes in place of kind of a stay-at-home sort of policy, but then trying to return back to work. But other companies are shifting to what some are calling a remote first working environment, where the norm is working remotely and the exception is coming into the office. And so that's clearly reduced demand for office space in these urban markets like Chicago. And so there's a lot of risk right now in the commercial real estate market. And I think that's showing up in the funding markets as well, because investors, you know, that outlook is less clear. And so they want to put more protections in place, maybe shorter term contracts and other types of covenants or conditions that can be put in place to manage that risk. And I think the outlook for downtown Chicago is still a bit unclear. I'm, you know, optimistic. I think we live in a great city, and I think people still want to gather together. But the nature of work is changing and how people interact, and it may not rely as much on physical space as we move into a more kind of digital way of connecting with one another. So I think the outcome is still yet to be seen.
Based on what I researched about your career, you explored a variety of financial and economic interests in your work. How do they intersect in your mind? Through what lens do you approach these different interests that unite them?
So my background is with the Federal Reserve. I was in Washington, D.C. from 2005 to 2013. I spent 8 years there working at the Board of Governors. So my background is in the financial crisis. I worked for Ben Bernanke at the Board of Governors during 2008 and 2009. And so a lot of my research relates back to the financial crisis, to bank regulation, to monetary policy. So the courses that I teach here at DePaul are largely in that area: money and banking, money and capital markets, both undergraduate and graduate. And so all of the issues happening right now with inflation, with the Federal Reserve raising interest rates, I do think that my background gives me a unique perspective, and we're having great conversations in my classes, you know, even this quarter, as we look ahead to 2022 and the outlook for the US economy. And then as it relates to cryptocurrency, I think it also gives me a unique perspective, because cryptocurrency does not exist as part of the Federal Reserve System. It's not part of the US monetary regime. And so as we look at these emerging technologies, I think it gives us opportunities to ask questions of what is money? Does it need to be connected to a government? Does it need to be connected to a banking system? Can we create money that's built on software? And so I'm a big believer in financial technology, financial innovation, and I think my background in the traditional financial system helps me appreciate what it offers. But I'm also a bit of a futurist, and so I like to talk to my students about how things are changing and all the kind of the new ideas and innovations that are out there today.
So you completed your PhD in 2007, which is like only a year before the financial crisis. So how do you think that timing influenced you as an economist and an academic?
Yeah, so I had the opportunity to join the Federal Reserve while I was still in graduate school. So I finished my PhD while I was in Washington. My PhD is from Indiana University. And what was great about that experience is I actually have a double PhD in economics and finance. And so my thesis was about the intersection of the business cycle and monetary policy along with the banking system. How does monetary policy affect credit supply? How does it affect the banking system? And so it was very sort of, I think, good background to go into 2008, 2009, because that's very similar actually to Ben Bernanke's background. That's where much of his research was. And so trying to understand in 2008, 2009, as we had a banking crisis, what were the impacts on credit supply? And so part of what drove that recession was banks were under distress. They started to contract their willingness to lend to borrowers. And so the government responded by injecting capital into the banks through the TARP program, through injecting money into the financial system through quantitative easing. Those were many of the things that I had studied in graduate school. And so it was an incredible opportunity to see these things happening in real time and to be part of those policy conversations, being in the room where it happened, where some of those decisions were made, was an incredible experience. And it really is something I've taken with me forever.
So you've been a faculty member at the Driehaus College of Business here at DePaul for like 8 years, and you recently made tenure. So how has DePaul become an academic home for you?
DePaul has been a great home for me. So when I first came here, I was new to academia and still a bit unsure about getting into teaching and just the academic kind of faculty environment. But the finance and real estate department has been very collegial. I love the people that I work with. And I think the greatest benefit for me has been working with students. So, I very much enjoyed my time at the Federal Reserve, working in policy, working on the big issues of the time, but it is a bit removed from kind of what's happening day to day with people's lives. And with students, I get to interact with them in the classroom, learn about what they're interested, what they're thinking about. And so even as it relates to cryptocurrency, I like to tell people, this is an area of expertise that I've developed over the last 8 years here at DePaul. And that really started with my undergraduate students. I started teaching money and banking. I would talk about the history of the money, the US dollar, the payment system. And my students would respond and say, well, yeah, that's very interesting, but what about Bitcoin? And so this was, 2013, not that long after Bitcoin was first introduced back in 2008, 2009. And my students were already aware of it, already asking me about it. And so being in the classroom has really been a learning experience for me. I don't view DePaul as a place where I show up and I'm just the expert, just talking at the students as like a lecture. It's become much more interactive, where I now send my students out to learn about what's going on in the world, bring that information back, and then we talk about it together. And so part of what's great about being at DePaul is these conversations that are taking place both in the classroom and online. And the students, I think, are so eager to understand these new and emerging trends that I just get to kind of be part of that with them. And together we're learning about the future.
Thank you for joining me today, Professor Black. If you're interested in hearing more from Professor Black on cryptocurrency and blockchain, you can read at his website, lamontblack.com. Thank you.